Hey guys, I'm Mr. Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Maze Runner: The Death Cure. So, the only reason I even decided to watch and review this movie is because I'd already seen the first two Maze Runner movies, and I thought, might as well see what the third one's deal is, right? Might as well finish off what is hopefully the trilogy of these movies, because I honestly thought the Maze Runner series wasn't that great to begin with. It was okay. The characterization was pretty lackluster, even from the get-go. The main character, Thomas, wasn't really that interesting to follow. He kind of just bumbled his way into success, and that follows suit in this movie as well, with some slightly different caveat dealing with that later on in the movie. But yeah, so this movie wasn't necessarily great. It's just a run and gun sort of action movie with characters, I would say that, in quotes, because I don't, even in the first, again, even in the first movie, I don't think the setup of the characters was really all that great to begin with. So, we begin this movie with, I believe, the start of this movie, I think, is the end of the second movie. I'm not sure if that was the case. It starts off pretty, in the action already, stuff is already happening, this train thing's going on, and Thomas and the crew, Newt was one of the other characters that was with them. We were doing this train heist or whatever it was that they were doing, and then the name of the movie pops up. We follow then one of the other characters from one of the I don't remember how he got caught in the second movie. I guess he did. The Asian guy, I believe his name is Mino in this. Yeah, I don't remember him getting captured, and this is the entire premise of this movie was them trying to rescue this guy, and I don't remember him getting captured at all by the Wicked Corporation, so I don't even remember what the second movie, how it ended. I clearly don't remember that ever happening. But anyways, he's having this dream where he's being chased by this machine, and then he gets airlifted or whatever. Meanwhile, Tom and crew get chased by some zombies because they're trying to go to his place. Excuse me. Oh man. Sorry. So we have one of the other individuals, I believe his name was Fry. I think that's his name. That's what I wrote in my notes anyway. Or as I will also refer to as the token black guy in the crew, who kind of has a sub part in the mission way later on, but I'll get to that later. So they essentially get to the other side, and they say that they want to break into this maze-like structure, this building, Wicked, but it's supposed to be this maze-like structure to get in, even though they get in pretty easily, to all things considered, when the time comes. There's this part where Thomas has to get his tracker removed because he was being tracked, and then they're getting followed by these mercenary guys, and it turns out the leader of these mercenary guys that are going after Wicked is led by Gally, which is one of the characters from the first movie who was shot and for all likeliness was supposed to be dead, but is somehow in this movie alive, and they just say he lived somehow. They don't never really show how that happened, how he was picked up. He just tells the audience that, hey, whatever. Excuse me. So they talk with this infected guy to make this deal or whatever. Meanwhile, Teresa, the girl in the first two movies, She's like a part of Wicked and trying to figure out this cure situation for one of the patients. Meanwhile, Thomas, Newt, and Gally are moving in the streets. They eventually, or just Thomas individually, eventually confronts Teresa and they capture her, bringing her outside and then capturing her. We figure out that Newt is infected somehow. They mentioned at some point the virus was airborne, but there are some people who are immune. Like main character Thomas is apparently the saving savior of the group because he's the cure. But Newt is infected again somehow. They claim it's airborne. Excuse me. So they're trying to sit down with Teresa. They get the info. Mino, when he's saved, he's shocked that Gally's there and so on and so forth, but they explain that away, as I mentioned earlier. There are a lot of parts in this movie that involve as you can see on the top of the poster there, you see that helicopter. It's a good helicopter. It is very convenient. I didn't write it in my notes the first 2 times, but it comes like 2 times in the movie that's super convenient in the third because I'm trying to remember all the details, because this is a really long movie, by the way. This is like a 2-hour plus movie, super long. It did not need to be that long, to be honest. So anyway, excuse me, ooh. Teresa's parents, patient ends up being infected. Anyways, even after all of the things about that her supposedly having the cure, and then they eventually meet up with her and do all that stuff. So the doctor, the leader of the Wicked group, the doctor one, the lady, I thought she died too. I thought she died in the second movie, but maybe it was just, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't remember the second movie. I'm sorry. I thought she died, but maybe I was misremembering. I don't know. Anyway, she's like considering giving up, and then she's like, "Oh, I knew when I lost the situation," so on and so forth. Speaking of people in the sequel, Jensen, the one that was like in charge of the facility in the second movie, is there, constantly watching them throughout the movie. He ends up being like the main antagonist here as well. But there's this other girl that was with the Thomas group, Newt and Gally as well, and I wrote her name in my notes somewhere, but I don't remember where in my notes I put that. I believe her name was Jenny or something. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't remember her name. But yeah, I guess she sort of had a crush on Thomas as well. So, there's the whole love triangle thing, even though Thomas clearly likes Teresa, and they have their moment later on in the movie. But anyways, they get Mino out, and they jump into the water because they're like in the building at this point, and they jump out and they dive into this like little thing of water, and then Gally ends up being there conveniently because they were separated for a point of time. The girl who was driving the bus, the one that was saving all these other people that were inside the Wicked building, like shoots up this flare which signals the black guy, as I mentioned earlier, to use this crane to pick up the bus, lift it up above the wall and move it outside the wall, and then lower it outside the wall and then drop it. I'll admit that was a pretty clever escape plan. As much as I didn't like this movie, that was a pretty clever escape plan, even though I think at the height that they dropped from probably still would have killed them, but, whatever. At any rate, so yes, Thomas and his little crew flee from the area that they're in. Meanwhile, the crank guy, the one that was infected that I mentioned earlier, they called it infected in this crank, I think that's the phrase they use, is trying to build up this war, and he convinces a bunch of people to essentially storm into the Wicked City and essentially kill everyone. Meanwhile, Teresa finds out that, oh, what a shock, Thomas has the cure all along. But as that is going on, a war is now breaking out. Sorry, I just saw it in my notes. Brenda is the other girl. So she gets on that copter that I mentioned earlier, the one in the upper poster, and it's like the third save they have with this helicopter, helipad, whatever you want to call it, I don't know. So this thing comes in like for the third time, always in the convenient place, always at the convenient time, just in the nick of time, every single time. It gets kind of annoying the third time, even the first time. It's kind of like, oh, come on. So anyways, Thomas is now carrying Newt, who is more and more infected at this point. He turns more and more. I think he ends up stabbing himself. The shot was kind of unclear from when I was watching. But he ends up like walking off when when Brenda's like, oh no, he killed him, or whatever she was assuming when she came into the scene. So Thomas finds the doctor and then tries to get an explanation as to what was really going on, only to have her get shot by Jensen, and he ends up getting him and Teresa invested in all of this. He ends up getting like bound up, but she ends up fighting back, and then Thomas actually ends up getting shot near the end of the movie. By the way, Newt dies when he stabbed himself. So Thomas lets these other infected that are on the other side of the window get at Jensen to take him out once and for all. They make their way up to the roof, which is on fire, and that convenient helicopter comes for a fourth time, or maybe this is the third at this point. I actually kind of lost count of how many times that copter came in. And Thomas is able to jump, but Teresa just sort of stands there as, like, Thomas jumped, and then, like, she, like, is just, like, staring like, oh... And then she looks back as this other building is falling on the building she is on. She's looking back and not jumping. Like, why? Like, why would you just look? I was like... I'm sorry. I kind of did laugh. Only because of how dramatic they tried to make it look, like it was all in slow-mo. So stupid. Oh God, I'm killing myself. Anyways, she ends up falling and dying. It's stupid. It's kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie. The way that scene was shot was so stupid. It made it look like she could have made it. So I ended up kind of laughing, because of lack of character development throughout the series, and it was just so dumb. Anyways, Thomas ends up waking up. He somehow survives getting shot, miraculously. Thomas and Mino hug it out, and he finds one final note from Newt, saying how he should move on, and the group had found their new paradise, and things all seems to be hunky-dory now. And that is the end of the movie. It's utterly ridiculous. It focuses more on trying to just have these action bits, or like we have to move here now. We have to move here, and this seems to be the problem with the entire series for me, is that like they never take their time to develop these characters, because when like characters like Newt died, I'm like, well, okay, he died. Who was that character? I mean, he was in all three movies, but who was he? Like, he was just like the guy who was like, I'm gonna help you out, I guess. That was his defining thing, and that was it. Same thing for Teresa. Her final moment ended up being more hysterical because of how it was shot and, the lack of character development. Her deal was like she was the traitor, and then, she was like trying to find the cure in this movie, and then that's it. That's the only thing she does. Like everyone has that one thing, that one little mission that they're out to do, and that's like their defining thing. So, it's just action bit after action bit, or, moving from point B to point B. The dialogue is just so like, oh, we gotta do this, or we gotta do that, or, or, it's the very, very simple dialogue, very, very simply written. So yeah, I've never really been a fan of the Maze Runner movies. I don't know why. I've seen the previous two, and at this point I was like, yeah, what the hell, I might as well finish it off. So I would give the movie a 3 out of 10. I don't even know why I'd give it a 3 out of 10, but whatever. So anyways, that is my review for this movie, and if you enjoyed this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And also make sure to check out the link in the description. It will head you over to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated, since YouTube will never ever pay me personally. They don't want to pay me. They don't want to pay someone like me. But if anyone else wants to donate again, feel free to do that. And until next time, everyone, bye!